In the meantime, please make sure that you can see the chat box on the side of your screen and that you can type in any messages you would like to type. And please let me know if you can hear me properly. So let's give it a go. If you can hear me properly, please type into the chat box. Yes, David, I can hear you properly. All right, great. I'm getting a lot of yeses. Excellent. So as I said, we'll start in just a few minutes. In the meantime, I'd be really curious. I'm really interested to hear where y'all are from, what stage of your GRE studies or your grad school applications you're in, and what you would like to get out of this webinar. So go ahead, take a minute or two to type in just a little introductory something into chat, after which we will officially start the webinar. So I see some of you are worried about the verbal. Anything else troubling your GRE prep or your grad school prep, grad school applications? When should you shortlist universities? Great question. Oh, and we have a GRE retaker with us as well. Relearning quant. Cool, cool. That's great. That's a lot of really, really good information that can help us try and fine tune this webinar to your specific needs. I think what I would like to do is I would like to officially start the webinar now. And so welcome again to those of you who joined us a few minutes ago or who just joined us. My name is David. I'm a senior tutor here at examPAL. This webinar is going to be divided into two parts. The first part, I'm going to talk about how you can get the highest possible score that you can get on the GRE. What's the winning strategy for that? And afterwards, Azurra from SchoolApply will take over. Azurra, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hello everyone. So I'm Azurra from SchoolApply. I'll be presenting the second part of this webinar, which is basically a guide on how to pick the right university, what's the best time to start your application, as one of the questions was, and some of the tips and tricks to ace your application.
All right, thank you very much. And with that, we will start. So this is me. As I said, I'm a senior tutor here at examPAL. We've been in the test prep business for quite a few years. We're essentially a company founded by teachers who thought that test prep should be done differently, and that is our aim. And just before I get into the nitty gritty, I would like to put this up on the screen. There is a 30% discount until the end of the month for the next 2 days for any of you with us here today. So please take advantage of it. So unfortunately, this is what many people look like when they are studying for a standardized test, such as the GRE. And the reason that this is the inner feeling of many people when they're doing the studies is what I would like to discuss in the next few slides. And what I would like to suggest to you is a general method for approaching the GRE test. The GRE test is not similar to tests that you may have taken in high school or in college, in the sense that it's not just a cram lots of information into your mind and then regurgitate it out on test day type of exam. The GRE is fundamentally different from this in 3 different ways. So the first thing that is very different about the GRE in comparison to other exams is that there are many different ways to solve every single question. And therefore, the standard method of teaching for the GRE and for other standardized tests, which is just a sort of a classroom with 30 people sitting around and listening to the teacher, it doesn't work. And as a teacher, I can tell you that it's very frustrating both for me and for the students when I'm showing a specific way with which to solve someone, as someone mentioned in chat just a few messages ago. And that method that I'm suggesting is good for some of the students. It isn't good for the others. And at the end of the day, the students are sitting there and just not understanding what I'm trying to say. And therefore, the study for the GRE needs to be personalized. As you go through and learn the material, you need to really focus in on what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And this leads into the second thing that is very, very unique about the GRE and standardized tests in general. It is the element of time. So if you were to have, say, 5, maybe 10 minutes to solve a GRE question, I could guarantee that almost every single one of you could solve every single one of the questions on the GRE and get a perfect score. Unfortunately, that's not what you have. You have less than 10 minutes per question. And this is actually a much, much larger challenge than solving the question. The challenge is how to solve the question quickly. How do you get to the right answer within the given time frame? And again, this is something that working with books or just working in a standard class usually doesn't help you out with. But an online platform such as ours does. And the two of these together combine into one of the big problems with the GRE is that most studies are inefficient. And sort of, I want to summarize this slide just for a moment. And especially for those of you who haven't taken the GRE before, or those of you who are struggling and are trying to take it again, who need to take it again, then what you really, really need to understand is that it's not just about more and more and more practice. That's not going to get you there. You do need to go over the basic fundamentals, but after you go over the basic fundamentals, you need to focus in on what is good for you. All right. And that is what the rest of this talk, at least of my part of this webinar, is going to be about. So first of all, you need to make sure that you just don't get bored. We make sure that you don't get bored by using interactive teaser videos and making sure that we ask questions throughout the lessons and so on and so forth. If you're not studying with us, if you're studying with someone else, then perhaps go and take a study group, use online forums, make little mnemonics or other sort of tools to keep yourself engaged as you're studying. Otherwise, you just won't make it to the finish line. The second thing that is very, very important to realize and understand about the GRE is that it tests something that's called cognitive flexibility. And rather than sort of wax on and talk too much about this, I'd like to show by example what I mean by cognitive flexibility. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to solve a question together. More precisely, you guys are going to solve the question, and you guys are going to type the answer into chat, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit. So let's look at this question. For every positive x and y, 3x plus 2y divided by x plus y is between either 0 and 1, 1 to 1.5, 1.5 to 2, 2 to 3, or 3 to 4. So again, I would like each and every one of you to take a minute to try and solve the question that's on the board right now, and to type into chat your answer and why you think that answer is correct. What is the method that you use to solve this question? All right, so have a go. So we have an answer, but again, I don't want only the answer. I would also like to know how you got to that answer. And if some of you are looking at the question and you're saying to yourself, I have no idea whatsoever what to do, then go ahead and type that into chat as well. Type in what you think you should be doing. Maybe you have a hint of an idea, but you're not sure how to go the full mile. How would you go about trying to solve this question? What are the first steps that you should take? So some people are saying that you should split it into fractions. Some people are maybe suggesting looking at the denominator. Some people are suggesting plugging in a specific value for x and y. And really what I'd like you to do is to go over and read what your colleagues are writing in chat. And this is sort of emphasizing what I was saying before. There are many different ways to solve this specific question, and we're going to see a few of these in a minute. And again, as a teacher, what I can do is I can maybe show you one of the methods. I can show you 2 of the methods. Today, I'm going to show you 3 different methods to solve this problem. When you're looking at a book, you're very, very rarely going to have more than one specific method. And what you should do as you practice is you should learn to recognize these different methods. You should learn of the given methods to see what works for you and what doesn't. All right, so let's go and let's look at 3 different solutions to this specific question. So the first solution that's going to be on the board right now is the one that you see. And it is a very, very formal mathematical sort of solution for those of you who are quant people, and probably many of you are not. This is something you might remember maybe slightly with horror from your high school classes or college classes. It's essentially taking and playing around with a fraction. So we can write the numerator, instead of writing 3x plus 2y, we can write it as x plus 2x plus 2y. Then we can split the fraction into 2 parts. This part on the right just equals 2. And this part on the left is a fraction. And therefore, the answer is going to be 2 plus a fraction. And that means that the answer is D. It is between 2 and 3. All right. So this is a very, very formal solution, very, very mathy. Some of you might be saying, I would never have thought to do it this way. And that's perfect. That just goes to show that you don't have to do it this way. And here's another method, which other people have suggested in chat. And the method works like this. Let's say that x equals y equals 1. So we're just going to try plugging in 2 numbers. And then we have that 3x is 3, 2y is 2. And the fraction simplifies into 3 plus 2 divided by 1 plus 1. This is 2.5. And then we can go over to our answers and we can say, well, it's definitely not A, because 2.5 isn't between 0 and 1. It's definitely not B, because 2.5 isn't between 1 and 1.5. Similarly, it's definitely not C. It's definitely not E, and therefore it has to be answer choice D. And essentially what we've done here is we've figured out which of the answers is correct without fully understanding why it's correct. All right, this is something that we like to call an alternative approach, and I'll talk a little bit more about it in a second. And let's look at a third way to solve this specific question, right? So we've seen a very, very formal mathematical method. We've seen a method that essentially is based on elimination to some extent. And now what we can do is we can also look at maybe a more zoom out type of approach, a more logical type of approach to solve this question. And that is to look and to say, well, we're looking at a fraction. And we want to know if it's between 2 integers. And it's sort of like asking about a remainder and what's left after the remainder, right? So we want to know, like, if the numerator is maybe twice as much as the denominator, if it's 3 times as much, if it's 5 times as much. And so we can pause and we can ask ourselves, well, I mean, what's 2 times the denominator? 2 times x plus y, that's smaller than the numerator, right? Because you have 3x here and you have 2y here. So 2 times this is smaller. How about 3 times the denominator? So 3 times the denominator is larger than the numerator, right? Because 3y is larger than 2y because y is positive. And so what we've done is we've sort of gone over the logic of the problem. We've looked at a fundamental logical property of fractions in this case, and we've said to ourselves, well, based on this property, without doing really rigorous formal math and without also trying to plug in specific numbers, we've reached the conclusion that the answer has to be D, between 2 and 3. All right, and the 3 different methods that I've just talked about, that are all on the board right now, are 3 different parts of what we like to call the palgorithm. That is the P, the A, and the L. They come from the palgorithm. And the palgorithm works like this. Precise types of methods, and this is true also for verbal in a slightly different way, but this is specifically focusing on quant for the moment. So precise types of methods are very, very formal in nature. They're the types of things that you're initially taught in your high school class. This is how you should go about solving a question when you want to do it properly. And it's very, very good for quant people. It's very, very good if you know exactly which equations you need to use and what order you need to use them. And it's less good for complex things, and it's less good if you're not that great in math. Alternative types of methodologies are solutions which get you to the right answer, even if you don't know exactly why that answer is correct. So in the question we just saw, we eliminated all of the options except for 1. Therefore, we know that D has to be the right answer, but we don't actually know why. So if I were to change around the fraction, if I were to write, a 5 instead of 3, then what would, happen to the answer? We wouldn't know. We would have to try using another number to see. And the third type of approach, the logical approach, relies on some sort of underlying property or symmetry in order to get us to the answer, without using rigorous formal calculations, but also without, let's call it, cheating or guessing. And these 3 types of approaches are what we like to divide most solution approaches for GRE questions into. They're different categories, okay? And we've looked at 3 specific tools that belong to these categories. And to go back to the topic of cognitive flexibility, then when you're studying for the GRE, after you've reached the point where you more or less know the material, once you're sitting and you're trying to actually solve questions, when you're trying to figure out what the right way to solve a question is, someone in chat asked what faster, slower methods are, then this is a very, very useful categorization, which you can use to help yourself identify what kinds of methods work best for you. If you're looking at a question and you're saying, I have absolutely no idea what to do, as some people were saying in chat, then probably the best sort of method that you should use is going to be alternative. You're going to try and hack the question, or Sherlock Holmes it. You're trying to get various pieces of information, for example, in verbal. You might want to look at the answer choices to a reading comprehension passage and see what part of the passage they point you towards. Or you might, if you're doing a sentence equivalence question, you might want to try looking for word pairs and seeing if those word pairs match the given sentence, or various other tools that help you to sort of zoom in on the right answer, even if you're not sure exactly what to do. On the other hand, if, as I said, it looks like a very, very straightforward question that all you have to do is plug in the number and do the math or whatever, then there's no reason not to just do it. And this is what I would recommend that each and every one of you develop as you're studying for the GRE. The ability to choose which tool works best for you for the different questions. So that is one part of getting a very, very high GRE score, okay? We started off with keeping engaged in what you're studying. We continued on to mastering the different types of tools out there, you know, your toolbox of how you can approach a different question. And at some point, usually most people hit a sort of plateau, and there was someone who said that they need to retake the GRE. So possibly you feel like you've hit a plateau. You're practicing and practicing and you're not improving and you're not sure what to do. You try more and more problems. Maybe you have timing issues. Maybe you just make small mistakes. Maybe you get lost in the convoluted reading comprehension passages. Maybe you have vocab issues. Whatever it is, you hit a plateau. And the question is, how do you break through this plateau? How do you go from 100 to 110? And then the answer to that has to do with this realization that's on the board right now. Every single mistake that you make when solving a question is an opportunity for improvement. Specifically, we like to divide mistakes into 3 categories again. So we like to call professional mistakes, label professional mistakes as mistakes that you make when you just don't know the material properly. So for example, you didn't know the properties of even and odd integers. Or for example, you didn't know a specific word. You didn't recognize what exactly an inference question was, or perhaps you didn't know the laws of triangles. So all these sorts of mistakes, these are mistakes that essentially send you back to your textbook and tell you, listen, you don't know this material well enough, go study. Okay, this is one type of mistake. A second type of mistake is technical. These types of mistakes are you knew exactly what to do, but you forgot a plus, you forgot a minus, you accidentally marked the wrong answer, you didn't read the question properly. All these sorts of annoying types of mistakes that are often related to focus issues or stress issues, we like to call these technical. And one of the best ways to address technical mistakes, other than just practicing until you become perfect, is to play around with your timing. Possibly there are some questions that you shouldn't even try answering because they're just way above your level, or they'll just confuse you, or they'll just stress you out, or you know you're just going to get sucked into a loop and you're never going to finish. And so these types of questions, especially on the GRE where you can go and you can review the questions that you've answered so far and you can answer them later, you should leave them for afterwards and focus in on what you can do. And this creates a huge benefit because you can gain an extra 10% to 20% more time on every single individual question just by managing yourself properly. And this is one of the easiest ways to improve your GRE score. The final type of mistake that we like to divide mistakes into is what we call strategic. And this is sort of a mistake where you were looking at a question and you started off by approaching it in the wrong way. So instead, for example, of picking a number and plugging it into an equation and seeing what you get, you tried to fool around with the actual math. You tried to simplify the fraction, for example, in the example that we just saw before. Another type of approach is you were doing reading comprehension. And you spent an enormous amount of time trying to understand every little nitty-bitty piece of the passage before going on into the questions themselves. And this is a mistake because it's a huge waste of time, because the questions can focus you in on where you need to look. All these sorts of mistakes, they're not mistakes of knowing the material. They're not mistakes of, I just made a small mistake. They're mistakes that fall into the category of, I fundamentally approached the problem in the wrong way. And these are types of mistakes that you really need to recognize over time. And how do you go about recognizing all of these mistakes, the 3 types of categories? Well, you just need to be diligent about it. So for example, when you're taking a practice exam, power prep practice exam, then you're not just asking yourself, what is my current score level? Am I at like a perfect 170? Am I at 160? Am I at 150? This is not your goal when you're taking a practice exam. Rather, your goal is to take a step back and ask yourself, where did I mess up? Where could I have spent more time or less time? Should I have skipped certain questions, as we discussed before? Are there certain topics that I'm generally bad at, that I tend to make mistakes in, that I need to improve? All of these types of things are something that you need to do in your practice exams. And in addition to this, when you get a question wrong, then you shouldn't just be thinking to yourself, what is the right answer to this question? Rather, you should be taking a step back and you should be asking yourself, why did I get this question wrong? What did I do wrong, and how can I not make the same mistake the second time around? All right. So this is the main and most important, and honestly, it's the most difficult part of rapid improvement. It's the ability to self-reflect and to see what you're doing wrong and then to improve it. Specifically in our system, we try to do most of the heavy lifting for you. We are an AI-based system, so as you solve questions in our course on our website, we ask you for feedback. So for example, we asked you, what was the main reason? Why did you make a mistake? We ask you, what is the main tool that you use to solve a specific question? And then over time, we help adapt the system to you. That is, we show you the specific solution methodologies that you like to use. And we sort of show you the questions that bring out the specific mistakes that you make. And again, even if you're not using our platform, then this is something that you need to do for yourself. You need to have like a big table of all the mistakes and solution tools and so on. And over time, learn how to focus yourself in on that. And then after that, we have an optimization phase in which, as I said, we suggest the best solution for you. And this is something that you also need to do. I'm not going to talk about the statistics. It's here for people who would like to look at it. There's a bunch of stuff behind the scenes. We have a bunch of awards and so on, and excellent ratings. And most importantly, there is a success guarantee, especially for those of you who are retakers. So please go ahead and check it out. We do guarantee, if I remember correctly, a 6-point increase on your GRE score from your last official exam. Otherwise, you get your money back. So no joke, we know what we're doing and we believe in ourselves. Okay, so the last few minutes of my part are going to be devoted to a study plan. Okay, so far we've talked about the winning strategy. We've talked about what you need to do in order to gain the tools, in order to build in yourself the capacities and the skills in order to get a maximal score on the GRE. And this last part is, how do you actually implement it? What is the study plan that you should follow? And essentially, we recommend somewhere around 120 hours spread over a month and a half to 2 months. This is sort of intense enough that you get into it. It's about 15 hours a week, but it's not so intense that you just peter out and you lose all your energy and you forget what you've done at the beginning. So this is really the sort of the golden period, about a month and a half to 2 months of prep. And this is assuming that you are a native English speaker or that you have decent levels of English. If you need to put a significant amount of time into improving your English skills, then this can be a month or so longer. Specifically, we lay out everything in a very organized manner on the course trail. We usually recommend dividing topics into 2 days. So one day you just go over and you learn the basic materials from your textbook. The day after that, you go and you practice the various questions, and the algorithm adapts to you, and so on and so forth. Make sure to read daily. This reading speed is one of the easiest ways to get bonuses on this exam, just because there's so much you need to read and comprehend. The faster you can do it, the better you can do it, the easier your life will be. After that, we've spoken about the practice exams. We've talked about the topic review, and we've spoken about the mistakes. And remember, the goal is to learn when you're at your review stage. The goal isn't just to solve many, 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 many questions. It's to pause and to reflect on yourself. So that gets you to the very end of the GRE. And of course, on the last day of prep, you are ready to go and crush the GRE and get that maximal score that you need. Great. So that sort of ends my more or less half hour, where we talked about the general strategy for the GRE, how you should approach it, and so on. I think I have about 3 or 4 minutes, maybe 5, in which I can answer any questions that you have about the GRE specifically. after which we will transition over to Azurra's part of the webinar and talk about the applications to grad schools. So any specific questions that people have? What tactic can you recommend for reading comprehension passages? There are usually two different approaches that people use for reading comprehension. Unfortunately, there's no one-size-fits-all reading comprehension tactic because different people comprehend the information in different ways. But either you skim over the passage, so you take maybe a minute to just skim over it briefly to see the main points and so on and so forth, and only then go into the actual questions. Or you take a longer period of time, say around maybe 2.5 minutes, to really understand what the passage is all about. And if you're going for the sort of the long form, so really understanding the passage, then afterwards it'll be much easier for you to answer the questions. If you go the short form, then you'll have to go back and forth. And on the GRE, what you should do before making this decision is see how many questions are relevant to that specific question. So right above the passage, it says how many questions are relevant to it. If it's just a one-question passage, like the critical reasoning types of passages, then don't bother skimming it, just read it fully. If you have 4 questions per passage, it might be in your interest to skim over it first. This is something that you need to practice and you need to see for yourself. Next question. Can I shortlist a university? So Azurra is going to talk about universities in a moment. I'll leave that up to her. Which material is most effective for a quant section? I don't understand the question. If you could elaborate a little bit more, I would be happy to answer. How can I improve my vocabulary? So essentially, the first thing you need to do is you need to get a list of the words that you need to know. We provide such a list on our course. You can probably also find them online easily. For actually learning the words, one of the simplest methods that works is writing sentences with the words. So don't just sit in front of a big table of words and expect that you'll be able to remember everything. Instead, try taking each individual word and putting it into a sentence. And when you do that, it'll really build up your memory and it'll build up your recall, and you will learn the vocabulary in a much easier fashion. I don't understand what daily speaking schedule is. If you mean daily reading, then we do recommend that you spend time reading every day. Again, this is both in the interests of improving your reading speed and also in the interests of just getting used to reading GRE quality material, because most of what we read every day isn't the academic type of passage that you'll find in the GRE. It's something of a far different nature. Essay questions. Okay, so essay is a topic in and unto itself. The only thing I'll say about essays right now is you really shouldn't worry about it too much. It's very hard to get a high GRE score, a high GRE essay score, but that isn't terribly important. All you need to do is aim to be more or less average, so 4 to 4.5. There are very simple methodologies, so just like a 5-paragraph essay, very standard, introduction at the start, conclusion at the end. Each paragraph in the middle targets its own specific topic, and you're more or less good to go. Just remember to support every single claim that you make in the essay. So you can't just make blanket statements. You need to provide evidence or reasoning to support your claims. Next question. I work a 9 to 6 shift daily. How much time and when should I spend for prep? So again, we recommend approximately 15 hours a week over a month and a half to 2 months. How you spend your time is mostly up to you. Don't cram it all into the weekend because that won't work. I would probably recommend somewhere around an hour a day during the week, so you're not too tired to study. An hour is sort of enough, a chunk of time that's large enough for you to get into it, but it's usually not exhausting. And consider taking something like maybe 4 to 5 hour chunks of time during the weekend, and then seeing how that works for you. Next question. Which material is most effective for a high score in quantitative reasoning? Again, are you asking what material do you need to study? So please just check out a course. I think that's the fastest and simplest answer I have for you. You can create a free account and you can just see what material we teach. This is the material that you need to know. We of course believe that our course and our structure is very fine-tuned and efficient, and so we recommend it. If you don't want to learn with us, then use the official guide material. You have good exercises there, even though the solutions aren't great, and you won't learn any of the tactics. I think I can take one last question, and after that, we'll switch over to the second part of the webinar. Four people are typing one last question. Who will be first? How many practice tests? The GRE provides 6 practice tests, if I'm not mistaken. You should just go on their website and check it out. I don't recommend that you do all of the practice tests that are available. Again, practice tests are a tool for self-improvement. You must use them to gauge not only your current level of ability, but also what you need to improve, also your timing, your general stamina, your general strategies, and so on and so forth. How much does it cost to register? Please go on the website. You do have a 30% discount. All of the information is there. We will be happy to help you. With that, I will switch over the mic to Azurra, who will present her part, after which there will be an additional Q&A session for any remaining questions that you have.
Thanks, David. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second part of this webinar hosted by SchoolApply. So today I'll be speaking about the great aspects of studying abroad, how to help you choose your university amongst the huge choices available out there, and how to make your application different from others. There's a lot of information out there when it comes to studying abroad. It can both be really exciting, but can quickly become overwhelming. So my aim today is to try to make this whole process easier for you and clarify some doubts or questions that you may have. So a brief introduction of myself. I'm Irish. I grew up traveling around the world on my boat with my parents. I got to see a lot of countries, and I'm really grateful of how all these experiences have forged my personality today. I've also been an international student, just like you're planning on being. I studied in France, Canada, and China. I've been working for SchoolApply now for 3 years, helping students every day achieve their dream of studying abroad and realizing their full potential. So let's start with the first section of why study abroad. So some days you might have some doubts about, if it's really for you, if it's worth going abroad, if you should just stay back with your family and do a degree in your home country instead. This can also be a good plan, but studying abroad is such an incredibly amazing experience. I would certainly encourage everyone to take this opportunity if they can. Leaving your comfort zone is, it's a challenge, definitely, but it is a really rewarding experience. The return on investment is huge. So having a degree from abroad in your CV has a ton of value and will definitely help you find a better position in your home country when you return, or if you decide to stay in the country you studied in, it will have a lot of value, no doubt. During your graduate degree, you'll have the opportunity to attend a lot of networking events and recruitment fairs. These are really important because you'll get to meet recruiters that are looking for talent. This will be an opportunity for you to develop a good network of contacts, which you definitely use in the future. And these industry connections are really valuable. Many students are even hired before graduating, which is really wonderful and really exciting to think that you've already secured a job before even getting your degree in hand. Universities also, have a lot of services and they help students. They have these career centers which offer to match you up with advisors or experienced mentors, and they'll help you find your way, whether it be to, find the right courses that will suit you for your career path, or get an internship while you're studying abroad, or find a job after you graduate. Even I'm still in touch with the mentor that helped me during my graduate degree, which shows you that, almost 10 years after graduating, I still have a great rapport, and I'm sure that he's helped me find a job already. So there's a good contact, and it's great to keep up this. If you decide to stay on after your degree, even if it's just for a short while, international work experience is great. It's really beneficial. It'll look good on your CV, and it shows your value, but also your capacity of integrating a foreign company. Taking in a new culture requires you to adapt, be understanding of differences, and welcome change. These aren't easy things at first, and they are definitely a challenge. But once you master them, you'll see that they help you a lot, and they help you grow. You'll develop your social skills, your adapting skills, and these are really sought after by businesses. there are a lot of reasons why companies are looking for people that have gone abroad, but one of the, I'd say the two reasons why these skills are so important are, first of all, that with globalism, big companies are international. They do business with the rest of the world. So they obviously search for employees who are open-minded, who can adapt, understand other cultures, and you'll definitely be working with a bunch of nationalities. So that's why it's so good to have those skills. And secondly, the fast-changing environment that companies are dealing with today obliges them to look for employees that suggest, welcome, and accept new changes. While this might seem simple, it really isn't that easy at first. So that's why they value people that have gone abroad and have this open-mindedness. Just to give you a quick example, at SchoolApply, there are 32 employees from 18 different countries. And this diversity is truly enriching because everyone has a different perspective. Everyone brings a bit of their own culture, and together we form one company culture, which is very diverse and different from others. From my experience in job interviews, employers value all international experience, whether it's for studies or for work, because it shows a good bit of courage. It's almost more valued than your degree sometimes. So traveling abroad, specifically at this stage in your life, is a great way to prepare for your future, prepare for your career, your marriage, and really the rest of your life. It enhances your job prospects and guarantees a better life for you and your family. But that's not all that you'll gain from this experience. So this is a little map of, well, a big map of the world, and it's illustrating that, no matter what country you go to, it's going to be an adventure, for sure, definitely a big adventure. Being abroad opens your eyes to the unknown. It's completely different to a holiday because when you're living in a country, you actually pick up local knowledge, you learn about the country's opinions, their values, you improve your social skills. It's huge, it's a lot. Studying abroad is an adventure really from start to finish, I would say. For me personally, my study abroad experience were the best years of my life. Just to give you a brief description of my experience, I did my bachelor's degree in France. And then I decided to go to Canada to do my MBA, where I finished with a semester abroad in China. So key points to these years in my life that stand out in my memories were the flexible curriculum, the opportunity to choose different courses as you go, interesting classes, having a great part-time job on campus, which is also possible for international students, making lifelong friends, a very large number of social activities, and the opportunity to do a semester abroad. So not only I went to Canada, but I also got to go to China. When I look back on these years today and all of these wonderful memories and the contacts, the networking events, the career fairs, all of those things, I feel like the decision to study abroad was definitely the best I've made so far. Being immersed in a brand new country is a fascinating experience from a cultural perspective. What I mean by this is it really opens your mind on different ways of doing things. You get to discover different outlooks on work, life, politics. It opens your mind to new ways of teaching, learning, customs, traditions, social activities. The world, despite globalization, each country is still very different from each other, which is nice. You'll gain confidence and independence because, by leaping into the unknown, you quickly learn a lot about life. You learn about yourself, about being independent, about handling unforeseen situations, and all of this will help you figure out your strengths, but also your weaknesses. So all in all, you get to kind of know yourself a bit better after it. During this life-changing experience, you'll learn to step back and see your own culture through a different lens. This really means that you get to develop your own opinion rather than simply accepting the ones maybe you grew up with or maybe you never even thought to question. And of course, if you still need help improving your English or if you're not completely fluent, being abroad will help with that as well. This, when you decide to study abroad, it also means that you're taking on living alone, maybe for the first time. In my case, this had a huge impact on me as I had to learn how to do all my paperwork, organize my insurance, bank, tax returns, as well as cooking and caring for myself as an independent individual. It can be overwhelming at first, but you quickly gain confidence and strength. It may seem daunting at the beginning, but once you're faced with the situation, you realize that you have some resources that you never even knew you had. And that's actually the title of this presentation, which is Realizing Your Potential, because we actually all have a lot of skills and resources that we might not even know until faced with a situation where they are required. if we stay in our comfort zone our whole life, we may not ever discover them. So to sum up this section, I would say that going abroad is great for personal development. Overall, you'll come out of it as a stronger, more mature person with an open mind, improved adapting and social skills, and all of these are highly valued by companies, making your job prospects much better. So on to the second section of how should I choose my university? This is definitely a big question. We help students with this every day at SchoolApply, so we really understand the challenge it can be. The fact that there's so much choice out there makes it very hard. So we split this up into 4 sections. First of all, we'll talk about programs. This is likely one of the most important deciding factors, especially if you're looking for a specific specialty. This may not be offered at all universities and reduce your choices considerably, making it easier. But it is really important to ask yourself, what you want to study and what specialty you want to go into before you're applying. You'll also want to see if you want to do a course-based program or a research program. If you've been faced, say, with a topic in your bachelor's degree that you're interested in researching, or if you're looking to do a PhD, you'll definitely want to opt for a research-based master's. During a research-based master's, you'll take fewer courses, and then at the end of it, you'll take, or maybe during it, you'll take 1 or 2 big courses where you complete your research work and write your thesis. This option can sometimes take a little bit longer than a course-based master's, and you'll want to keep in mind, for example, that universities in Canada generally require you to find a supervisor before you apply to an MSc. So that really means you need to start early. What have you asked earlier? I think when you should start applying. So it really depends on if you're doing, an MSc or a course-based. If you're going for the MSc, which I would say is the longer application process, you'd want to start a good 1.5 years before the intake. Alternatively, you can opt for a course-based master's, which is more professional. It's a professional master's program, more industry-oriented, making you a bit more job-ready. However, do remember that if writing a long thesis is what scares you in an MSc, course-based masters also require a lot of papers to be written. They sometimes require a project, which is about 6 credits. This can be sometimes alone, sometimes in a group, and requires a lot of time and writing about a more real case study, so an industry-related issue or question. So it's still probably a lot of work, a lot of research, but it's more industry-oriented and real case scenarios. So the second point, which will have a big impact on your decision making, is your budget. Budget can vary hugely depending on country, on the type of degree, the duration, the location. Being in a big city inevitably means higher costs for tuition, but also living expenses, so keep that in mind. A master's degree, say in Toronto, could cost 30,000 Canadian versus a master's degree in Saskatchewan, which would be 17,000. It's definitely a big difference, so you'll want to work that out before you start applying and see what's feasible for you, your family, or a potential loan. The third one would be location. We consider this the third most important factor because the other 2 are probably more important. Things to keep in mind will be the duration of your studies. So while a postgraduate degree is 1 year in the UK or Ireland, it tends to be 2 years in North America, Canada, or USA. So that has a big impact also on your budget. Consider post-graduation work opportunities if you're really interested in staying in the country afterwards. Canada, US, and Ireland offer stay-back options with postgraduate work visas, while the UK doesn't. And last of all, think that this is 1 or 2 years of your life in that location. Which culture or mentality is most appealing to you, or may you already be drawn to? Do you prefer American movies? Do you like British humor? What foods are you drawn to? Do you have any family or friends there? That also has a big impact. So those are all things to ask yourself before making your choice. And last of all is ranking. So that we get a lot of questions about rankings, how important they are. And here's what I would say. So first of all, when you look at rankings, it's important to keep in mind the total volume. So in the US, there are about 4,100 universities approximately. In the UK, there are 130 approximately. And Canada has about 100. So when looking at the rankings, if a university is in the top 100, 150 in the US, this is already the top 3%. So if you get accepted into one of these, consider yourself really lucky, as it's an excellent institution. Rankings can also differ a lot based on subject and faculty. So while the institution ranking is important, the ranking of the faculty that you're studying in your specific field is even more important. So do remember to look at that as well. And last of all, we recommend you look at the criteria used to establish the ranking. Is it the amount of money invested in research? Is it the employability statistics? Is it the successful graduation statistics? And as I said earlier, when it comes to employment, it's really all about you. It's about your skills, your international experience, your internships, and how you sell yourself to them. This almost, has as much value as the ranking of the university you'll have studied at, I would say. So on to the third section of what makes an application different from others. First of all, let's start with the personal statement. Personal statements are one of the hardest aspects of an application, so I think that's why it's the key element. They definitely aren't easy, and I would say the first golden rule to remember is to not use a template. There are a million templates out there available on Google, but if you put yourself in an admissions officer's shoes, they review hundreds of applications every day, and they know all those templates by heart. I'm not saying that you'll get rejected if you use a template, of course not, but this is really the only place and time you have to shine. So take this opportunity to really sell yourself and show that you've done research on the specific university and course you're applying to. For a bachelor's degree, it's fine to just take a template and change the name of the university, but for a master's, a lot more is expected. You have to remember that they're not only analyzing your motivation, but they're also looking at your writing skills, because there's going to be a lot of writing in your master's degree, and they're trying to get a feel for your personality and what you're like outside of the classroom. So secondly, we have awards and recognitions. So these are proof of your ability to put a lot of effort into a task, to overcome obstacles, to be a creative thinker, to have good time management skills, showing that you've been able to help your community or work in a club or get involved in your university student organizations. All of this is really valuable because these are civic activities that show you have made time for others and you want to help them, and you do this out of the good willingness of your heart. So examples can be, leading a student organization on campus, whether it be to help international students that come to your campus to study, or making life easier for students with handicaps, or making the world a better place, like implementing ecological gestures in your club, etc. These are just some examples. While they might not seem important to you, these can show off your team spirit, your determination, your open-mindedness, your courage. They really do show a lot more than what you might think, and they're worth it. So make sure to mention them, whether it's in your personal statement or if you have any certificates, definitely add those to your applications. On to athletic achievements. Universities receive applications from way more students than they can really admit. So students with high GPAs, high Gmat Gre scores, and plenty of academic achievements find that, it's not necessarily enough to guarantee a spot at a university. Of course, it's definitely necessary, but extracurricular involvement is really valued. You won't get in with just one or the other, but having both makes your application stand out that little bit more. So on this little icon, as you can see, there are 1,001 different sports. No matter which sport you do, which one you did and you stuck to, be sure to mention it, because doing a sport typically represents a significant time commitment, especially if you're participating in competitions. It shows that you've been able to get your bachelor university assignments done in a timely manner. You've been able to go and practice, and you're dedicated to achieving a goal. In addition, doing a sport highlights your leadership skills. If you're able, say, to become a team captain, or you play another important role on your team. It also shows that you follow through with your commitments, you're dedicated to pursuing your passions. All of this it gives an idea to the admissions officer what your character is like. Then we have volunteering. So volunteering, if you haven't had the opportunity to do it yet, it's worth looking into, not only for the great experience and what you'll gain from it on a personal level, but also because it's highly valued in a university application. Admissions officers really want to see who you are outside of the classroom. They can find out what you're like as a student from all your your transcripts and reference letters from your professors. But volunteering, if you do have it, do please talk about it in your essay, because they'll be interested in knowing. It gives them a whole showcase, another side of yourself, and it provides an opportunity for you to speak passionately about a cause or an organization that you believe in and that you've actually dedicated some real time towards. Universities today are looking for alumni that stand out, because you know that you are going to be their alumni forever. They're looking for students that have leadership skills, that come with a story and have shown care for others. Volunteering means giving up some of your precious time for others, and this is definitely valued at that time as well. So all in all, showing your strengths outside the classroom is key in today's applications. The truth is, no matter what your experience in general is definitely always good. Whether it's good or bad, even if it's bad, you learn from your experiences. So showing that you've had the courage to put yourself out there and to get involved means you've got a certain risk-taking character, you've got leadership, and you're altruistic, which is all good for a university application. So we are here to help you. So SchoolApply is a very diverse team that is dedicated to helping students achieve their dreams of studying abroad. We have a large number of counsellors that have all been international students once themselves. They will listen to your background, your priorities, your desires, and match you up with the best universities based on what's most important to you. We do all the research, so we're fully committed to getting you accepted, and we'll do everything in our power to make that happen. We do offer acceptance guarantee as well. And so SchoolApply offers services from counselling to visa assistance. We take care of it all really from start to finish. We let you choose exactly how much support you want. So basically we offer several different packages. And if you want to build your own package, that's also possible. You just take the basic package for $150 and you add on what services you think you need, if you don't think you need the whole 9 yards. At the moment, there's a very special offer on with 30% off all SchoolApply packages. You just need to enter the promo code examPAL30 when you check out. And this is valid until August 31st at midnight Pacific time. If you're already a SchoolApply student, you can also avail of this offer if you want to upgrade your package. So to close this presentation, here's a quote from Benjamin Franklin. For the best return on your money, pour your purse into your head. I think this sums up everything that's been said in this presentation. So we'll now be hosting a questions and answer session. There was a question earlier from Harsha about, should I shortlist my universities first or give my GRE and then decide later? Harsha, I think this all depends on your timeline. When are you looking to enroll? How much time you need to prepare for your GRE, what kind of universities you're looking at, what are their deadlines, what scores they're looking for. I don't think there's a right or a wrong to this. It really depends on how much time you have ahead of yourself. If there are any other questions, please feel free to send them in your chat and we'll be happy to answer them. Do you consult for PhD applicants? Unfortunately, we don't. We only do diplomas, bachelor's and master's degrees. So the deadline to give the GRE, well, I would say that, so the deadline to apply for your master's degrees, it depends on the country again, but for the fall semester you'd want to aim, it depends on the country and the specialty you want to do, but to give you an idea, you'd want to aim to submit your application by Jan or February of the year you want to study in September. So based on that, you can work backwards and see when you should take your GRE. And for the spring semester, it would be the spring semester around probably March, April. Again, you need to make sure your degree is offered in the spring semester. Master's degrees don't have as many programs offered in January generally. Is it possible to have admission in any university with an undergrad GPA of 2.99? That's a very vague question. It would be difficult for me to answer you on the chat. I would say definitely we could help you. What you can do is you can create an account on SchoolApply, a free account, and an admissions counselor can reach out to you and see if there are opportunities for you. Then you could sign up for a package. It depends on what you want to study, what you've done in the past, what's on your CV, all the extracurricular achievements, as I mentioned as well. But yes, I would say that there are definitely options out there, and please reach out to us. We'll be happy to help you. I'm not sure I understand Yusuf's question about including GRE words in our personal statement. If you can just help me with that by rephrasing it. For Akinsola's question, the first step would be to log on to schoolapply.com and create an account. You can fill out your details, where you want to study, when you want to start. You can give us your contact details. You can upload some documents, give us an idea of who you are and what you want to do. And then one of our counselors will give you a call and advise you on what's best. So you could do best to do that before you apply to a school of interest, and we'll help you with matching you up with universities and see if where you have the most chances of acceptance. How is Canada for an MS in finance? Canada's a great country, no matter which program you go for. It is competitive, very competitive, so you want to keep that in mind. There are way more applicants than number of seats, so start early. And you'll need a high score on your Gmat for an MS in finance. Using words that are uncommon. I would say, Yusuf, I'm not exactly sure, but I would say as long as your essay is well written, you can certainly mention your GRE and any other extracurricular achievements you've got outside the classroom. They will help you in your application. Do SchoolApply students get preference in top Canada partnered universities? Yes, so we do partner with a large number of universities in Canada, and our students are certainly helped with their admissions because we have special relationships with the universities, not with all of them, obviously, but we do have a good number of universities that we partner with, so we can help you with that. Do all international students have to do the GRE? No, that really depends on what country you're studying in, what program you're applying to. So that's definitely a no. I think you'll need to look into, or just, as I said, create an account on SchoolApply, and we can help you with answering that question once we know a little bit more about you and what you're looking to do. Same for Akinsola's question. This is a little difficult to answer on a chat, but certainly just go onto schoolapply.com and create an account. You can upload your GRE there and actually ask that specific question, and we'll answer it and see if there are opportunities for you, but I'm sure there are. Yes, it is important to use good vocabulary in your essay because, as I said, the essay is it's the only time for you to shine, other than your academic results, obviously. So make sure you put a lot of effort into that, and they are analysing your writing skills because they know that you'll need good writing skills to get through your master's degree and succeed. So Gmat Gre, it depends. Some universities are willing to take one or the other, some aren't. It really depends on where you want to go and what you want to study for an MS in finance. Some are fine with accepting a GRE, even though Gmat's more business oriented and is required for MBAs and generally MS in finance. Some do accept a GRE as well. Thank you for attending the webinar, Daniela. TOEFL or IELTS, both of these are accepted in the US. You can do one or the other.
All right, I think we have time for maybe 2 to 3 last questions before we close today's webinar. So any last questions?
No, I don't think there's a preference. I mean, maybe more students do a TOEFL that go to the US, but IELTS is totally fine as well. Work experience, as you're from a totally different background in undergrad, and I don't have an internship in finance. Yes, so that could be required. Again, it depends on the university and the country. But however, getting a really high score in your GMAT or GRE will prove that you are capable of making it. But again, I wouldn't be able to answer that in a short sentence. The best is to reach out to SchoolApply, and one of our advisors will look into it and help you. Yes, having work experience for 2 years will definitely help you on the job market in the States.
All right. So at least for my part, I would like to thank everyone for joining us here today. I do hope you learned a lot. I would recommend you check out both SchoolApply and examPAL. You can set up free accounts and just see what it's all about. Again, from my side, please remember that the GRE and application to grad school is just another step on the path of your life. So, keep that in mind. And best of luck in whatever you want to do. And we are happy to help you out. Any last words, Azurra?
Yes, thanks everyone for attending the webinar. And as David said, we're here to help you, so feel free to reach out.
All right, best. So good luck and have a great rest of your day.